Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Gloria from Nature Society Singapore, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Education Committee. So today we have with us a speaker, Ms. Mei Yee. I'll just give you a short introduction of who she is. So I'm reading off the script. Fascinated and inspired by all nature and wildlife documentaries she watched while growing up, Mei Yee decided to pursue an education and career in conservation. Graduating from NTU with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Earth Systems Science and specializing in ecology, she's currently working for Nature Society Singapore as a project officer in charge of the Every Singaporean a Naturalist program, or ESN for short. So ESN is NSS's flagship citizen science project and nature education program to provide students and teachers with hands-on conservation experience to deepen their appreciation and knowledge of nature. So the goal is for every Singaporean to become a naturalist who cares about, loves, and protects nature. Okay. So basically, I will hand the time over to Mei Yee, and she will take us to teaching us about farm with backyard butterflies. Mei Yee, please.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mei Yee, and I am here today to tell you more about the backyard butterflies. Okay, so maybe before we go into how to identify butterflies, it's good to know about its life cycle, especially for those of you who have not learned about it in school. So all butterflies, regardless of species, they will go through 4 different stages in their life. Okay, so the first is the eggs, followed by the larva stage, whereby they are a caterpillar, in the pupa stage, whereby they are chrysalis, and finally in the final stage, whereby they become the adult butterfly. Okay, and at each stage of their life cycle, they have a different goal. The caterpillars, for example, they eat a lot, whereas adult butterflies, they reproduce. Now, having said that, adult butterflies, they also need food, okay, which is why on the next slide, I'm going to compare and show the diet of the caterpillar versus the butterfly. Okay, so let's see how what kind of food do the two do the caterpillar and butterfly eat, and how is it different? Okay, so for caterpillars, their main source of food is actually the leaves of the plants, whereby their eggs are being laid on, and they usually feed on leaves from specific species. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Mei Yee, I just mute off first. You unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yay!
All right, thank you,
Mei Yee,
Gloria.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so just to repeat what I said, so caterpillars, they usually feed on the leaves of the plants where their eggs are being laid on, and this they are usually very specific about the type of plants that they feed on. So they have this specific species plants that they feed on their leaves, and we call these plants the host plants. Okay. Meanwhile, for the adult butterfly, they feed on nectar and sometimes some other sources of food. But unlike the caterpillars, the adult butterflies, they are not so particular about the type of plant that they feed from. So we call plants that adult butterfly feed on the nectar plants. Okay, so butterflies that usually found nearby or in the vicinity of their respective hosts and nectar plants. Okay, so butterflies, they cannot fly long distances, unlike birds. So where do you usually expect to find them? You will be able to find them if you have the hosts and nectar plants around. Okay, so where in Singapore can you find the hosts and nectar plants of butterflies? Well, it's actually everywhere. Okay, even along the roadside, like the wildflowers that actually grew a lot during the circuit breaker period. In certain parts of Singapore, I think the wildflowers are still growing pretty well. They have not been cut. Okay, you can also find the host plants and their nectar plants in our gardens and parks, as well as our nature reserves. Okay, so some of these host plants and nectar plants, they grow naturally. Okay, they are growing naturally, but there are also certain that are being cultivated by the authorities, by the MParks, in order to promote the growth of butterflies, okay, to allow their population to be sustained, to grow. Okay, and when should you go out to find butterflies? Okay, you should do it when it is sunny. Okay, because butterflies, they are actually what we call cold-blooded animals. Okay, they require the sun to warm up, to raise their body temperature, and once they have become warm, they will then start moving about. So that's why you don't usually find a lot of butterflies flying around early in the morning before 9 a.m. Like you usually see them being more active between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. when the sun is high, it's hot and warm out there. Okay, so the butterflies are a bit different from us. When it's hot and warm, we'll be hiding in the shelter, but the butterflies, they like it warm. Okay, all right. So I think now that we have talked about when and where to find butterflies, let's talk about how to identify butterflies. Okay, what do you need to know in order to tell apart the different species of butterflies? So first, you need to know the parts of a butterfly so that you can accurately describe it so that you know what to focus on. All right. So every time you look at the butterfly, there's actually two sides. You might be either looking at the upper side or the underside. So the upper side is what you see when their wings are open, and when their wings are closed, you see the underside. Now, why is it important to know the difference between upper side and underside? That is because sometimes the colors and patterns on the upper side and underside of the same butterfly might look different. So over here is an example, okay? Both butterflies are the same. It's the tip J butterfly, but then you can see the colors is slightly different. The patterns is not exactly the same as well. So when you're describing a butterfly, you want to be specific. Are you describing the upper side or the underside? Okay. And we all know butterflies, they are insects. So insects, they have two pairs of wings. Okay, the first pair of wings, which is nearer to the head, we call it the forewings. And then they have the second pair of wings, which is further away from the head, we call it the hind wings. So once again, it is important to know the difference, to tell them apart, because the forewing and the hind wings can have different colors, they can have different patterns. Okay, and then of course, butterflies, they have a pair of antennae that is to allow them to detect and locate flowers as well as other butterflies. Okay. And finally, their body, which is made out of three parts. You have the head, the thorax, and finally the abdomen. Okay, but for today's session, we will be mostly describing the butterfly using based on its wings, the colors and patterns of the wings. But sometimes the color of the body will also help you to tell apart the different species. Okay, so these are all the parts of a butterfly that we should know in order to identify them. Okay, so moving on. Now, whenever you look at a butterfly, what features must you pay attention to in order to tell them apart? Now, the first would be definitely the colors and the patterns on the wings. So on the hind wings, the forewings, is it the underside or is it the upper side? Okay, so in this case, you can see the forewings is black, is mostly black, and the hind wing is almost completely bright blue in color. Okay, so you can't just say the wings is black and blue. You don't know which part are you describing. Okay, so you want to be as accurate as possible. And when we talk about patterns on the wings, what are some patterns you can expect to see? Okay, you can expect to see spots. Okay, like on the hind wing, you see this black spot, this completely fully black one, we call it a spot. Or you can see another kind of pattern we call eye spots. Okay, so eye spots and spots, they are two different things. So eye spots are actually round eye-like markings. Eye spots are usually made up of a few circles of different colors to give the illusion of a real eye. So why do butterflies have eye spots? Well, that is because they usually have eye spots in bigger size, larger than their real eyes, so as to scare off predators. Okay, to confuse predators, letting them think that, oh, I'm actually a larger animal, so that the predators will not eat them. So that's why some species have eye spots, is to avoid predation. Okay, and then we can also identify butterfly by looking at their size. So for this session, I have categorized the size according to t-shirt sizes. Okay, and so what is this size measuring? It's measuring the length of one forewing. You can see on the diagram. Okay, so if the forewing, the length of one forewing is less than 2.5 cm, I will call it a small butterfly. Less than 4 cm, a medium butterfly. Less than 5.5 cm, a large butterfly. And anything bigger than 5.5 cm, an extra large butterfly. Okay, and finally, we can also look at the speed of its flight. Okay, so for this session, I've also categorized them into slow, medium, and fast. Okay, but having said that, it's very difficult to tell the speed in real life. Okay, especially if you're new. You might think it's a fast flying butterfly, but actually it's flying slow. Okay, so speed, for a start, you might find it confusing, but as you look at butterflies more frequently, you can start to tell apart, oh, this is slow, this is medium, this is fast. Okay, so for a start, you'll most likely be identifying butterflies based on the colors and the patterns and maybe the size as well. Okay, so let us look at the butterflies itself. Okay, so in the world, there's about 17,500 species, but in Singapore, we have about 320 species of butterflies. Okay, and all these butterflies, they are grouped into 6 families. Okay, 6 smaller families, and these are the 6 families over here. But the butterflies that we'll be going through today, they will be found in the first 4 families. Okay, we will be talking about the swallowtails, the brush-footed butterflies, the whites and sulfurs, as well as the skippers. Okay, so let's look at our first family of butterflies, the swallowtails. Now I'm gonna for each of this family, I'll tell you a little bit about their characteristic. So the swallowtail, they are generally large, striking flyers. So by striking, we mean they have colorful, bright colors, not colorful, sorry, bright colors. Okay, and they are called swallowtails because they have this tail-like feature found on their hind wings. Okay, which is why they have this common name. Okay, but having said that, not all species in the swallowtail family will have the tail. So there are some species that will be without the tail, and we'll be looking at some example. For example, the common birdwing. Okay, so you can see for each of this butterfly, I will include the size and their speed of flight at the top. Okay, so you can note it down if you want to. So the common birdwing is actually our largest butterfly in Singapore. Okay, and you can see the colors is very striking. It has this bright yellow color on the hind wings as well as its abdomen. Okay, now the female and male, they look different. Okay, female, they have these black spots along the margins of their hind wings. Okay, now even though the common birdwing has common in its name, it is actually uncommon in Singapore. It is a forest species and it is actually threatened. Its status is vulnerable. Okay, so why is it? So where can you usually find them? Well, you usually find them near its caterpillar host plants. Okay, either cultivated or growing naturally in the forest. So over here is a short video of the common birdwing. Okay, you can see that it's huge. Okay, so the common birdwing, they are very strong flyers. So they are one of the few butterflies that can fly longer distance and at a taller height. Okay, so if they're flying at a reasonably tall height and the sun is shining on it, the shadow it casts on the ground is so big that it looks like the shadow of a bird, which is why it's called the common birdwing. Okay, and here you see the caterpillar of the common birdwing. Okay, and its host plant is actually the Dutchman's pipe, which I have mentioned. They grow naturally in our forests, but we also cultivate them in our urban areas, our parks and gardens, in order to promote the growth of the common birdwing. Okay, so the common birdwing is actually vulnerable in Singapore. It's threatened because it's hard to find its host plant. That is why it's important for us to plant it. Okay. Okay, another butterfly that we'll talk about today is the common rose. So a large butterfly. Okay, so actually the common rose has been crowned as the Singapore national butterfly. Not sure if you know, okay, by popular vote back in June 2015. So similar to the common birdwing, it is also a forest species and is actually uncommon in Singapore. Okay, and how do you know it's a common rose? Well, you can look at its red body. Okay, so it has black wings with these red spots on the hind wings and this white central spot. Okay, and most importantly, it has this red body. Okay, so same as the common birdwing, they have the same host plant, which is also the Dutchman's pipe. Okay, so once again, we cannot find the Dutchman's pipe. They are usually found in our forests, and we do not have many forests left. Okay, which is why the common rose is also uncommon nowadays. Okay, and this is how its caterpillar looks like. And moving on, another butterfly that we'll talk about today is the common marmot, also a large butterfly. Now it's also black in color, and you realize, the common marmot, they can actually exist in 2 forms. On the left, you have the Romulus form, and on the right, you have the Cyrus form. Now, the male common marmot, they can only exist in the Cyrus form. So male common marmot, they will always look like the butterfly on the right. Meanwhile, the female common marmot, they can exist in 2 forms, either the Romulus form or the Cyrus form. Okay, and if you look at the colors and patterns on the butterfly for the Romulus form, you realize it's also black in color with red spots on the hind wing and this white central patch of. Okay, so if I put the common Mormon side by side with the common rose, you realize, hey, these two butterflies, they look very alike. Okay, and why is that so? That is because the female common Mormon and Romulus form is mimicking the common rose. Okay, so why is it mimicking the common rose? That is because the common rose is actually a poisonous butterfly. So their predators, the birds, they know to not eat common rose because they don't want to be poisoned. So through evolution, common Mormon has become to look similar to common rose so as to avoid predation. Okay, so butterflies, they can avoid predation by having eye spots to confuse predators, making them think they are big, or they can mimic another species which is poisonous, like what the common Mormon is doing. Okay, so how do we tell apart the common Mormon and common rose? Now we look at the color of the body, which is why I pointed out just now. Okay, so common rose, it has a red body, while our common Mormon has a black body. Okay, so remember, common birdwing and common Mormon, they are not that common in Singapore. To find them, you really have to go to the forest where their host plants is found, or places where we know their host plants is being cultivated. The one that you usually find around us, if you do come across a butterfly with wing colors like this, is the common Mormon. Okay, so right in our neighborhood. Okay, moving on to the next butterfly, we have the line butterfly. Okay, a large butterfly, and you realize its speed is actually fast. Okay, so it's so fast that most of the time you wouldn't be able to see the patterns clearly, but you can identify line butterfly based on how they fly. Okay, so they are so fast, they like to fly in a zigzag manner, and it's very erratic. So they will zig and zag about. Okay, so if you see this butterfly flying in a very messy manner and you see flashes of black and yellow, it's likely the line butterfly. Okay, so over here I'm showing the upper side and underside of the line butterfly because it looks a little bit different. Okay, so if you ever come across the butterfly and you are looking at its underside and it looks foreign, it doesn't look familiar to you, then just wait for it to open its wings, because sometimes you might recognize the upper side instead. Okay, because the upper side and underside can look different. All right, and here is how the caterpillar, showing the caterpillar of the line butterfly, how it looks like. Now, as the name suggests, you can guess the line butterfly, its caterpillar host plant is actually the lime plant. Okay, so the lime plant is a type of a citrus plant. So other host plants for the lime butterfly also include the mandarin orange plant or the lemon tree. Okay, so line butterfly is a butterfly that you can commonly see around in our neighborhood because many of us have lime plant growing along the corridor. Okay. Now, with that, I'm done with the swallowtails family. Let's move on to the next family of butterfly. We call the brush-footed butterflies. Okay. So brush-footed butterflies, they have this distinctive flight pattern. Every time after they beat their wing, they will glide for a while. And they are known as brush-footed butterflies because their front pair of legs is smaller in size and is densely covered with hair, which is why it's called brush-footed butterflies. Okay, so here we have a few species of brush-footed butterflies. First, the plain tiger. It's called a tiger butterfly because it has the colors of the tiger. Okay, and why is it called a plain tiger? Because compared to the other two tiger butterflies in Singapore, you can see the plain tiger, it doesn't have much patterns on the wings. While meanwhile, the other two species, the common tiger and the black veined tiger, you can see these stripes on their wings called veins. Okay. Another brush-footed butterfly species would be the leopard. Okay, medium size as well. Orange butterfly. Now it's called a leopard. You can guess why, because there's many spots on its wings, just like a leopard. Okay. And then we have another brush-footed butterfly called the Tonic Coaster. Okay, the Tonic Coaster is also orange butterfly, and if you look at the wings, you also see spots. So how do we tell apart a Tonic Coaster from a leopard? We can look at the margin on the hind wing. They have this broad black margin, which is actually absent in the leopard. So if I put them side by side, you can see it clearly. Even though both have spots, the Tonic Coaster, they have this broad black margin on the hind wings, and the Tonic Coaster actually have lesser spots. Okay, so that's how you tell apart these two orange butterflies. Okay, so a very short video of one of this orange butterfly. Can you guess what species it is? Okay, so this is actually the leopard because you can see the spots, but you do not see the black margins on the hind wing. Okay. Okay, so other brush-footed butterflies that we have includes the pansies. So I will go through about 3 pansies. So pansies are butterflies that are known to have eye spots. Okay, so their eye spots can be found in different sizes, different colors, different numbers, as well as on different position of the butterflies. So this is how eye spots or how patterns are important for us to tell about species, different species of butterflies. Okay, so for the blue pansy, the male actually has this bright blue hind wings. Meanwhile, your female, they are duller in color, brown. Okay. Then we also have the chocolate pansy. Okay, so as the name suggests, chocolate because it's actually chocolate brown in color. So the upper side is reddish brown. Meanwhile, the underside is dark brown. However, usually when you see this butterfly flying around, right, the sun is actually shining from the top. So the underside will appear to be black rather than dark brown. You wouldn't be able to see it's dark brown unless the butterfly is resting with its wings closed. Okay, so if you do see a brown butterfly flying about and then you see flashes of black, now that's likely your chocolate pansy. Okay, so it's also a pansy butterfly. That's why you can see eye spots. Okay, and it's different from the eye spots of the blue pansy. Smaller in size, there are more eye spots. They are found along the margins. Okay. And then next, another pansy we have is the peacock pansy. So once again, it has eye spots at different positions in different colors, different numbers, and different size. Okay, also orange in color. Okay, so if you come across an orange butterfly, there's many possibility of what it could be. So you must wait for it to land first, for it to rest, for its wings to open, and then you observe the look at the patterns in order to tell them apart. Okay. So if it has eye spots, it's a peacock pansy. If it just has spots, then it might be a leopard or tonic coaster. How to tell a leopard and tonic coaster apart? Look at the hind wings. Okay, find the broad black margin. If there is, it's the tonic coaster. All right. Okay, another butterfly that's common around us outside in the neighborhood, okay, is the common palm fly. So as the name suggests, it's a palm fly. So you can usually find it around different species of palms found in our urban areas. Okay, so how do you identify the common palm fly? Okay, you can look out for this white center spot. Okay, so they have this white center spot on their brown wings, and they also have this thumbprint mark. Okay, they have a fingerprint mark at the tip of their forewing as if someone is picking up the butterfly like this. Okay, so this is how you identify the common palm fly. Okay. And that's our last butterfly from the brush-footed butterflies family. So now very quickly, let us look at the whites and sulfurs. Okay, the whites and sulfurs. So these butterflies in this family, they are generally medium in size and they are often either pale white or yellow in color with some black or orange markings on their wings. So here are two species found in the white and sulfurs family. You have the emigrants as well as the grass yellows. Okay. Now for both of these, there are actually a few species, but I wouldn't be going into the specific species. So you can just know that emigrants and grass yellows, they are generally yellow in color, okay, with some black markings on their wings. How to tell apart these two yellow butterflies? They're actually different in size as well as different in speed. Emigrants, they are bigger, they fly faster, while grass yellow, they are smaller and they move slower. So if I compare to a real object, the grass yellow is about the size of a 50-cent coin. Okay, meanwhile, your emigrant is about 1.5 times to 2 times bigger than the grass yellow. And if you look at the shape of the wings, the grass yellow, their wings are more rounded in shape, okay, look more circular, while emigrants, their forewings is actually more angular, more sharp at the tip, okay? So that's the emigrant, the grass yellow. And then we have another very common butterfly we find in our neighborhood. It's called a painted Jezebel. Okay, a very beautiful butterfly. Okay, with this pattern on their wings, they have these stripes. We call it veins. Okay, so they have this prominent black veins. And on the underside of the wing, you can see 3 colors: white, yellow, and orange. Now, the painted Jezebel is a species of butterfly that like to fly at a taller height, okay, where their host plant is found. So most of the butterfly that we have went through so far, you usually find them around the ground level, around our eye level. But for painted Jezebel, they like to fly at a taller height. So they are usually found at the top of the trees, at the tree canopy level, okay? that's where their host plant is found. So if you see a butterfly flying high up and then you see flashes of white with yellow and orange, it's likely the painted Jezebel. Okay, and for the female and male, they actually look slightly different. Okay, the female, their upper side, it looks a bit more dusty. Meanwhile, for the male, the upper side, it looks very clean. The veins are very sharp. Okay. Okay, another butterfly in this family is the striped albatross. Okay, so also another white butterfly. So if I compare the two, you can see they are both white with this prominent black veins. Okay, but their colors is a bit different. For the male striped albatross, it's completely white, while for the female striped albatross, the black veins is actually highlighted with this yellow dust. Okay. All right. Okay, and then finally, our last family of butterflies for today is the skippers. Okay, so people look at skippers and they will say, oh, it's a moth. No, it's actually not a moth. It's still a butterfly. Okay, they just look different from other families of butterflies. So skippers, they are generally small in size. Okay, and they have this characteristic that makes them different from other butterflies, which is that their body is so small that their head looks very big and their eyes looks very big. Okay, now why are they called skippers? Well, that is because instead of fluttering about and flying in other butterflies, the skippers, they make this quick skipping movement when they fly. Okay, so they look like they are darting about instead. If you do not look at them clearly, you might think you're looking at a grasshopper. But once they rest and stop and you have a closer look, you'll be able to tell them apart. Okay, so skippers, they hold their wing in such a manner that's different from other butterflies. Okay, so for other butterflies, they have two pairs of wings, right? They either open both of it or they close both of it. But for skippers, they can actually open their hind wings while closing their fore wings. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay, so most skippers are this color. They are either dull brown in color. Some of them are orange with this black or brown markings. All right. Okay. Now, due to time constraint, I will skip the next few slides, which I actually wanted to talk about moths, but it's all right. The focus of today is actually butterflies anyway, okay? So let me go to my last few slides. Now, we have went through some common species, okay? As other than the common birdwing and the common rose, all the other species that I went through are species that you can easily find around us. You know, you go out of your house, walk along the road, by the roadside, you might encounter some of the species that I went through. If you go to your nearby parks and gardens, these are the species that you can find. So when you do see butterfly out in the outdoor in real life right now, what you should do, okay? So if the butterfly is flying, now then it's very hard for you to see the colors and patterns. So follow this butterfly from a distance and wait for it to come to a rest, okay? And when it's resting, it's now, that's the time when you want to approach it, but you do it slowly so that you do not scare it off, okay? You do not scare it to start flying again, all right? Now, and then when you're close enough to the butterfly, you can start seeing the colors and patterns. So if you have a camera or phone with you, take a photograph of it, okay? If you do not, then you want to start noting down its appearance, okay? By answering these questions, okay? Note down your answers. So are you looking at the upper side or underside? What colors do you see on the forewings and the hind wings? What patterns are there on the forewings and the hind wings, okay? And with this, either your description or the photograph that you have taken, you can go back and compare with field guides or search online, okay? So what are some resource materials that you can refer to? Well, we have this NSS Pocket Guide series, so a field guide to the butterflies of Singapore. Or if you want, you can invest in a book, okay? So these are two possible resources that you can get for you to identify the butterflies that you see. Alternatively, you can use an app, okay? It's called iNaturalist. It's both a mobile app and a website. You can download it, go and search iNaturalist, okay? So iNaturalist is an online platform whereby people upload their biodiversity, their wildlife sighting, their observation, their photograph, and they help each other to identify it, okay? So it's a very useful app to learn about identification because it has an intelligent AI that's able to suggest a list of visually similar species from your photograph itself. Okay, so you don't have to go and search on your own. Just upload your photograph. They come up with a list. They help you to narrow down. And even if you are still unsure, there's a community of experts who can verify for you. Okay, so Nature Society, right now we have this iNaturalist project ongoing. It's called the NSS Singapore Nature Sightings. Okay, on my next slide, I will provide you with the link to this iNaturalist project. If you are keen to start observing butterfly and figuring out their identity, do scan the QR code, go to the link, join the project. Okay, so I think with that, I've come to the end of my sharing session. I'm sorry if it's a bit rushed, okay, a bit short of time, so I have to go a little bit fast. Okay, so while we do our Q&A, we have a short survey for you to fill in. So please scan this QR code or go to the URL to fill in a short survey. And for those of you who are interested to start using the iNaturalist app to identify your butterfly and learn from other experts, you can scan the second QR code, go to our iNaturalist project. Over there, there's further links to provide that will bring you to a tutorial to learn how to use iNaturalist. Okay, so thank you everyone. I think with that, I'll pass the time back to our host, Gloria. Gloria, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Mei Yee. It's a very interesting presentation. I learned a lot. And okay, basically for the Q&A, Mei Yee as well as Amy, who is from the Butterfly and Insect Group, will take your questions. So essentially, the first question is actually how to tell apart moths and butterflies. Maybe Mei Yee, you can go back to the slide that you had listing all the difference.
Okay, so how do we tell about moth and butterflies? That's a very good question because they look very alike, right? People often confuse, is it a butterfly or is it a moth? Now, these are some general statements that people like to use to tell apart butterfly and moth. Like for example, a butterfly is active in the day, it's colorful, they rest with their wings closed, while moth, they're active at night, dull in color, and rest with their wings open. But then, these are just general statements. Okay, they are not always true. There are exceptions, like from all the butterflies photos that we have seen so far. Butterflies, they rest with their wings open as well. And this behavior is actually known as basking. So they bask in the sun to absorb heat energy to raise their body temperature for them to start being active. Okay, so this butterfly over here is the chocolate pansy. Now, so the correct way to tell butterfly and moth apart is to actually look at their antenna. Okay, so if you look at the tip of their antenna, butterfly, they have this club or rounded antenna. Meanwhile, for moth, the tip of the antenna is actually straight. Okay, they also have a fuzzy antenna. So here is a real moth with a fuzzy antenna. Okay, if you look at the tip, it's straight. This is not club or rounded like the butterfly. Okay, so that is how you can tell apart butterflies and moth. You look at the antenna.
Okay, so Mei Yee, I understand the club is the little tip of the butterfly that has a kind of a club, which is like a protrusion, a bigger portion. Because the butterfly, the moth doesn't have that little expansion at the end.
Correct. Yes.
So that's the meaning of club. Yeah. Okay. Amy, do you have any further tips on how to tell apart the butterfly and the moth? Amy?
Oh, Amy is muted.
Amy, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Well, I think when it comes to the antenna, there may be a bit of confusion where the skippers are concerned because they tend to look brown also. And one might think that they are moths, but if you look at skippers, the antenna is usually very long, very, very long. So it's quite different from a butterfly antenna. So if you do see a skipper, you see that antennas are very long. The ones that are being shown now by Mei, they are not so long, but there are a few, I think they're still considered under butterflies, but some of these skippers really have very, very long antennas. And we don't have an example right now to show you, but if you go through a butterfly book, you might be able to see that there are some that are quite different looking from the other butterflies. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
The distinctive of the skipper. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Okay, I'll just move on to the next question. Do some butterflies fly in pairs, or does this happen only during mating season? Flying in pairs.
Okay, I'm not quite sure, but I don't think butterflies naturally fly in pairs. So usually when you see them in pairs, it's likely they are trying to mate. Okay, so that's what I think. I'm not sure whether Gloria and Amy, y'all have anything to add on or
Yes,
to correct.
Amy, yeah, Amy can share with us further. Amy?
Yeah, that's correct, Mei. Usually when they are in the mating game, you will see them flying together. They'll go round and round, and it's quite cute because they will be like tumbling and chasing each other. And that is really a mating activity. Yes, and you don't generally see butterflies like moving in a big group unless they happen to be all feeding on the same nectar plant, and then they fly off and they're frightened by something or other, could be a predator. Then they all move together and move off from the flowers in a big group, you know. But other than that, no, they don't normally go around together except when they are mating.
Okay.
Okay.
So what plants should people grow to attract butterflies?
Okay, so what plants? All right. So just now earlier I mentioned, right? Every species of butterfly, they have their own their own species of host plants and nectar plants. Okay. So I think maybe I'll let Amy elaborate more on some of these host plants and nectar plants. But the idea is that if you want to attract a specific species of butterfly, you need to go and find out what is its host plant and what is its nectar plant. You need to plant both so that both its caterpillars and its adult butterfly have food to eat. Okay, so all this information, you can actually find it easily on Google. You can just search the name of the butterfly and then search host plant and nectar plants. It should appear. But I will let Amy add on since she has more experience looking at the host and nectar plants.
Okay. I think you, as Mei has said, you normally will have to refer to some references to make sure, because a lot of plants look very similar. So you need to be sure which one you're getting, because butterflies, although some of them do take a number of host plants, so that's easier for you, you know, in the sense that you have a choice. But there are some butterflies, like in the case of our common rose, which was just now shown to you, as well as common birdwing, they seem to only go for one particular kind of host plant. This was the Aristolochia acuminata, or they call it the Dutchman's pipe. So when it's in that kind of situation, you have to look specifically and got to make sure you got the right plant. Okay. Other butterflies, they are quite okay in the sense that they will feed on at least 2 or 3. There is a very interesting book. I don't know. It's the Caterpillars of Singapore's Butterflies, and it's written by a guy called Horace Tan, and it actually goes into the details of each of the butterflies, but it's not comprehensive. Like, he selects the ones that he was able to rear over time. So he actually spells out the different types of plants which a butterfly can take. As I said, some are very specific, only one plant, and that's why they are, like in the case of common rose and common birdwing, they are actually threatened because they really need only that plant. But there are others that need 2 or 3. So this book actually spells out. So if you're interested to learn more about it, try to reference this book besides Googling, and you will be able to have a better picture of the kinds of host plants which support which butterflies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just a light-hearted question. Do butterflies actually poop, and how do you recognize it?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. Amy, do you have an answer to that question?
Sorry, I just missed the question.
Oh, okay. Basically, do butterflies poop, as in past feces?
Come again? I can't.
Now okay, do butterflies poo? Okay, now I think I can answer that question. I've had lime butterflies on my lime plant. So the caterpillar itself does poop black color pellets. But as to butterflies, I'm not sure. Amy can comment.
Yes, they do. They do.
What does it look like?
Like the well, butterflies. I remember the one most of all, the Atlas moth. The poo is really big because they are huge moths.
How many
butterflies do? It is very messy. That's why if you do rear in order to study the life cycle of a butterfly, you will find that you have to clean that container where you have put in your caterpillar, because every day when they eat, they poo. That's an inevitable thing that happens. And you will find at the end of the day, the container is quite dirty. So
but the butterflies themselves also, right?
Yeah,
adult butterflies.
That's right. Because in the wild, if they are, it just gets down to the ground, because they've been eating on the trees and on the leaves of the trees. So the poo will just go down to the ground. But if you keep it, you'll be very aware of the poo. Yeah, it's there every day.
Okay, so
Answering your question, Gloria?
actually the question is on adult butterflies, not just the caterpillar.
Oh, okay. Oh, would they? Well, we do see them passing water. We do see them passing water.
It's the jet, is it?
Yes, like a jet. Yes.
Okay. But as to poop, how about poop?
No, I don't recall seeing any poop.
So it's not solid, but more liquid.
That's right, because they're taking nectar.
They're
taking nectar, particularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question, what is being done to protect the common rose and common birdwing population in Singapore?
Okay, that's a very good question. So we mentioned that they are actually threatened in Singapore because it's hard to come by their host plant. They naturally grow in our forest, but right now, the forest in Singapore is so small, it's very fragmented. So the butterflies population are very far apart from one another. So what we can do to help protect or help increase their population in Singapore would be to grow their host plant in our neighborhood, in parks and gardens, so that we create this connectivity between the fragmented habitats. Okay, which is why I saw another question: how can we contribute to diversity of butterflies? Well, the main way to do it is really start growing their nectar plants, their host plants. If you stay on a landed property, you should go ahead and plant more of this. Build a butterfly garden in your home. You will definitely attract a lot of different butterflies, and they will serve as what we call this intermediate spot between major habitats, and this will help to connect their population and allow them to breed across different population. Okay, because if they are all fragmented and separated from one another, this is when interbreeding starts happening, and then you start having butterflies with abnormalities, and then they die earlier and things like that. So Amy, would you like to add on to what I said?
Yes, I think planting the host plant is, of course, extremely important, as mentioned earlier, because certain butterflies are very specific in the host plants which they need. So if there's a lack of this host plant, they are in danger of becoming threatened and eventually extinct if nobody cares about them enough. So, but having said that, it's still good also, because I think to grow what we call nectar plants, flowering plants, because we find that a lot of butterflies, when they are adults already, they will all need to have nectar. So, and I think for most people, when they plant plants in the house, they always like flowers and all that. So you're beautifying your house, at the same time, you're also helping the butterflies. But the host plants, of course, is even more important, but you need to know, so you can get information from us or from wherever you research, and you can get the host plant. You do a big service, and you can do it if you have a private garden, but you can do it in your flat. So I live in a flat, and I plant host plants also, like the lime plant. I think a lot of people actually keep lime plant because they actually eat the limes, right? And so at the same time, you're helping the butterflies. Yeah.
So basically, there's a question on can keep butterflies as a pet. So maybe I'll just answer the question on okay, basically the lime, if you like what Amy and Mei Yee has been saying, the lime plant, if you have the lime plant and the caterpillar appears, don't just squish it. You can actually pluck off the leaves where the caterpillar is and have a little container like those that you come in your noodles. So basically you can keep it inside. Of course, you can punch some holes and feed them with leaves, and you can watch the caterpillar grow and metamorphosize into a pupa. And you can actually search online to see that how many days is each of this cycle. And then after that, you watch it as a butterfly. It becomes, but as after pupation for several days, it becomes a butterfly. And then of course you release it. You don't keep the butterfly because it needs nectar and you don't have enough nectar. So best is to release it. Okay, we only keep caterpillars, we don't keep butterflies. Okay, just to move on. So basically, somebody is asking that both butterflies have some kind of powder. What is this powder for?
I think I will let Amy take that question.
The powder on butterflies and moths, what is it? The function of it?
That I'm not entirely sure, but it's more obvious in some butterflies. There's a kind of dusting on the wings. Like just now, I think you mentioned the painted Jezebel. yeah, a lot of people comment, those who are very familiar with butterflies, they say, oh, there's a much, very like gray powder dusting, you know, they describe it as dusting. I have not actually studied this myself, to be honest, so I don't want to say what exactly it is, but
Okay.
it is observed in some butterflies. But I think
Sugar painted Jezebel.
research more, you know, to
Yeah,
find
we
out
do it
actually
ourselves.
what's the purpose of this this dusting.
No worries. Yeah.
It's like it's not like powder, like as you say, it's a dusting.
Yeah, understand. Okay, what is the most common butterfly in Singapore?
Most common butterfly in Singapore, I would think that it's the chocolate pansy. It's pretty easy to see them all around, you know, as long as you have grass and then there's some wild flowers around, you will find a chocolate pansy. Not sure whether Amy has a different species in mind.
No, I fully agree with you, because when we go out, I think the chocolate pansy is seen almost everywhere. It is very resilient, I would say, because usually most butterflies will have a specific kind of area that it will go to, but chocolate pansy appears to be everywhere. And some butterflies like Tonic Coaster are also quite common, but certainly not as common as chocolate pansy. Yeah. And Tonic Coaster, for your information, for those who don't know, actually this butterfly is not native in the sense that was never here like long ago, but it was actually introduced a number of years back. I think not officially introduced, but some plants, butterflies, the eggs or the caterpillars may have been transported when plants are being exported from one country to another country. So there was some plants coming in from India, I think. And very likely that's how the eggs of the caterpillars of the Tonic Coaster arrived in Singapore. And later on, you know, you get to see that the Tonic Coaster develops from there. And because they're very resilient and they can eat a lot of host plants, I think. I mean, not host plant, they can actually feed on all the nectar. So they have actually become rather common over time, Tonic Coaster.
Okay, so maybe Mei Yee can explain the difference between host plant and nectar plant. And do all butterflies that drink nectar, can they drink from all the nectar plants, or they only drink from specific nectar plants?
Okay, so host plants are plant species where the caterpillars feed on. Okay, so each butterfly species, they have their own host plants. So maybe the plain tiger butterfly, their host plants would be different from the painted Jezebel butterfly's host plant. Okay, meanwhile, nectar plants are plants that have flowers with a lot of nectar. Okay, so adult butterflies, they are generally less picky eaters. They are not so specific. They might feed on nectar from more different plant species. So they don't have specific ones that they go to. So that's for most adult butterflies. Meanwhile, caterpillars, we like to call them picky eaters. So they really only feed on leaves from specific plants. Okay, which is why it's very important. You really want to have a good population of butterfly. You need both the host plant and the nectar plants around. Okay.
So what kind of flowers are good as nectar plants?
Oh, okay. I think maybe Amy would be a better person to answer that question. What kind of flowers?
Question again, sorry.
What kind of flowers are good as nectar plants? Flowers
For nectar plant.
to plant in your homes, or
Well, I have what we call the snakeweed. I don't know, we've got no pictures here of the snakeweed.
Yeah.
It's very pretty plant and very
yes,
quite ornamental. A lot of people grow it. Actually, it's a wild weed, you know, but it grows easily. So if you want to grow a nectar plant, I would recommend this snakeweed. The flowers are purplish, and there are some that are in red color and even pink color. The flowers, there are different types, but the purple one seems to be the most common, and also the most seem to be very attractive to the butterflies. And it's a shrub, so it's not a huge thing, and it will grow nicely. I grow it in my flat also. Yeah, so you can grow in a pot.
yes.
Or I usually grow it in a trough, you know.
Yes, there's a snakeweed.
In fact, they are doing very well right now because we have been having a lot of rain. Yeah, that's right. That's a snakeweed, correct. Yeah, that's right. But I think different. This Singapore snakeweed. Yeah, this is Singapore snake. Yeah.
Okay, so we are a bit out of time. So maybe I will ask the last questions. How long can a butterfly live, an adult butterfly live, if it doesn't get eaten? What is its natural lifespan? Let's say for the chocolate pansy, the most common butterfly.
Yeah, I don't know the exact lifespan of the chocolate pansy, but most butterfly species in Singapore, their lifespan is about a few weeks. So they don't usually live for that long. Yes. Yeah. So not sure if Amy would know the exact or more exact lifespan of a chocolate pansy.
Of the adult butterfly.
So far what I've read, they do not give so specifically the lifespan, but there's a general statement that our butterflies only last about 3 weeks. And the bigger butterflies, I read that overseas, some of them, they may last up to a month or even slightly longer. But I would say that I think most consensus from the literature that I've read is like, it's about 3 weeks long.
So
Yeah.
3 weeks, does it include the egg and caterpillar and the pupa stage, or it's just the adult stage?
Does it include that?
Yes.
No, I think it doesn't include that. It includes the time that they become butterflies.
Oh, adults only lah. Okay, adults is between 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, 3 weeks to a month.
Okay. Yeah, for the caterpillar, the egg, larva, and the pupa stage is well documented online. There's this website called Butterfly Circle, which has a very good life cycle. So you can Google each specific butterfly, and the life cycle is all there's a lot of pictures and a time for each of these. Yeah, this is the one that Mei Yee has just shown on screen.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Butterfly Circle.
Yeah.
So it's actually run by yeah, okay. So okay, thank you everybody for your time today and for participating and very useful discussion. Thanks Mei Yee and Amy for taking your time out to explain about butterflies. It's been very useful. Okay, can you all please help me out with this short survey on your left, and by scanning the QR code or looking at the URL. Okay, I'll just give some time, and then of course the iNaturalist project is on the right, where you can join in to to help to contribute your butterfly sightings. Okay, so okay, basically these sightings are good because the scientists actually who want to study the butterfly distribution across Singapore, they can actually cull the data from there because it's all geographically tagged, and then they have photos. So it's useful as a scientific tool also, not just a social kind of project. Okay.
Yeah, so for those of you who are asking how can you help to protect butterflies in Singapore, you can contribute. Every one of us can contribute by being a citizen scientist. Okay, all we have to do is to, monitor what's around us. If you come across any interesting biodiversity, butterfly, birds, take a photograph, upload to iNaturalist, and like what Gloria said, all this data is not just uploaded for fun. There's actually scientists that are downloading it, mining it to answer questions, to come up with surveys and studies. Okay, yeah. So I have copied and pasted the links in the chat as well. So for those of you who don't want to scan your QR code, you can click on the link instead in the chat. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you everybody. We in the survey, I'm also asking what kind of topics do you want it webinars for. So please help me out in that. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye. Thanks, Amy and
Welcome.
bye bye. Bye bye.